Hi, I'm Sarah and I'm going to be doing a weaving demonstration for you for the Blyth Art Centre online workshops. Weaving is a process of making a piece of cloth or making a tapestry using yarn. Okay, so I'm going to show you what it is you'll need to get ready. So here we've got everything we're going to need for our weaving. I've got a piece of card here. This card is quite firm card. It's what they call grey card. So you want quite strong cardboard for this. I've got a pair of scissors, a pencil, a lollipop stick. If you don't have a lollipop stick, then a tapestry needle or a darning needle would be okay. And a ruler and a selection of fibres and yarns. I said that you could do weaving with yarn, but in actual fact you can do it with anything that's malleable. Now I'm going to show you how to mark out for the teeth for your loom on each end of your cardboard. What I've done is measured 1 centimetre down on each side and drawn a line across, and then I've used the ruler to mark out 1 centimetre at a time. So the teeth are 1 centimetre apart. There's 14 here, 14 teeth, and that's, you need an even number. And then once I've marked out with my pencil, then I've just cut them with a pair of scissors right down to the 1 centimetre line, and I've done that on both sides. The first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to warp the loom. This diagram explains it quite well. So the warp are the threads that go this way, and then the waff are the threads that go this way, and the waff threads are the ones that we're going to be weaving through. But first of all, we need to make these lines that are coming up. So I'm going to use some of this wool here. You can make your wap threads quite discreet if you want to. You can make them out of white or a colour that wouldn't show, but I like them to be part of my weaving, so I'm going to use this here, this green. So the first thing I've done is I've tucked it under this side, and it's holding pretty well there. If it kept moving around, what I would do is I put a bit of masking tape there, but we're okay for now. And then we just go through the other side, and then we turn over our loom, we wind round, and we go back through the next teeth. And that's what we're doing, we're just winding the loom, putting in our threads. These have to be fairly taut when you're doing this. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes finishing this off. Now I'm going to start to weave my loom. I've chosen to use this embroidery thread here to begin with. So I'm just going to cut a length of it off. And I'm going to use my lollipop stick, and I've made a little cut, little slit just there, which I'm going to place my yarn in between. If I didn't have a lollipop stick, I would be using my needle here. Okay, so I'm going to put this through here. There you go. And then I'm going to begin. So my first of all, I'm going under, and then my next line of threads, I'm going under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Just working my way through. When I got to the end, and I'm going to pull this through. And help it to go up to the top. For your first row, it's good to use a thread that's quite strong and stable, like this one here. If I was to use the wool tops, this wouldn't work so well because it's not so strong and solid. So I've woven that through my first line. Now I've got my tail on the end, and I'm going to just weave this back through to secure it. So I'm going to go from this side. So I'm going to go over under at the top here just to secure it through. What I'm actually going to do to help myself out a little bit is to put my my stick on this end, so I can help myself out by doing this. Just go through like three or four of those, pull the end through, and then remove the stick, and then just tuck this. This can just tuck underneath your weaving, this bit here. And as you go, you just I could even cut that off at some point. Maybe I'll just cut it off now, make it a bit shorter. There we go. Now it's important not to pull too tight, because if you pull this thread too tight, what happens is it distorts your weaving, like you can see with this one here. If you're not after that effect, then try and keep all your threads loose. I'm going to put this back on here and continue weaving. So the last one was over, so my next thread needs to be under, so I'm doing the opposite. Under, over, under, over. Drawing it through, remembering not to put it too tight, give a bit of slack. You can start doing this and you can do quite a few lines, and then you can realise that it's all pulling in tight, so keep an eye on it. And then I'm going to finish this off, so I'm going to go over because my last one was under. Move under. I'm going to pull it through and inch it up to the top. You can use a hair comb to do this if you wanted to, or just your fingers. Now I'm going to keep weaving a couple of lines of this, and then I'll show you where I'm up to. So I've done a couple of more rows here, going under, over, and I've come to the end of my thread. So what I'm going to do is, as I've done in the beginning, is just to thread this a couple of times over and under the next row. And then take that off. Pull it a little bit so it's not too tight. And then just leave that there and cut off a bit of the excess. And now I'm going to add some other colour to it, other thread. So I've been going with my gardening twine here, and I've done a couple of rows straight across, and then I've just started to weave part of the loom, which is so I can meet with another colour, another thread halfway. So you don't have to weave all the loom, you can weave sections of it at a time to create a pattern. You can experiment and play around with this. I'm just going to do one more row, and then I'm going to start with another colour. Now I wanted to contrast this gardening twine with some of this wool tops here, the same as what I've used here. Pull some out. And see how this looks. So I finished off with my plastic bag, and now I'm just going to add my finishing rows with this. Like at the top, it needs to be something that's quite sturdy, so I'm going to use this thread here to just finish off at the bottom. So I've done about 3 rows of the pink to secure it, and now before we cut it, weaving off the loom, I'm going to add some tassels to this end. So you'll need I'm going to use 2 pieces of wool here. You could use more if you wanted it to be thicker. I'm going to put these together. So the first thing we need to do is to go one row in and thread the 2 bits of yarn together through. So I've got those are there, and then I'm going to come and thread them through the other side, coming in from this direction, coming in through the end and pulling them through. So now I've got a loop here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these through the loop, and then pull it up, and there you've got a tassel. You can make them as long as you want or as short as you want. I'm going to carry on doing that along the row. So here you can see I've finished off putting my tassels onto the bottom. Now they're all different lengths, which I quite like. You could always add different coloured threads as well. You can do it any which way you want to. So we're getting towards finishing our weaving now. So what we need to do is to take our weaving off the loom. So I'm going to turn it over to the back, and you'll need a pair of scissors to just cut through. This always feels a bit nerve-wracking, setting it free. You could keep it on the loom if you wanted to. Okay, so now I'm going to brush those over to one side. Okay. I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to tie these two ends together. I'm going to do a double knot. So 1, 2. I'm just going to carry on all the way along. So when you're weaving, you need to have an even amount of warp threads, so you can tie them off together. So I've got 14 on here. So I've tied it off on this end, and now I'm going to tie it off on the end with my tassels. So it's the same process. So I finished now taking my piece of work off the loom and doing my double knots. I've left the green of the wap thread because I think it adds another layer of interest to the tassels. And the next thing I'm going to do is put a bit of driftwood across the top. Here's my weaving up on the wall now. I've added a bit of yarn across the top to hang it from. I hope this has been a simple and creative way for you to get into weaving.